So I've been wanting to make bread for the longest time.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I got to do this. I got to pull the trigger. So I was like, this weekend I am making bread. And I looked up some recipes, tried to figure it all out. I got it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to spice it up. I'm going to put my own twist on it. So I roasted garlic in the oven for about an hour. Got it all nice and juicy. It was so chef's kiss. So I
Okay.
took that, chopped it up, chopped some rosemary up, put it into the bread mix, mixed it all together, added some beautiful, beautiful olive oil, like not the cheap kind. Like I got some really good olive oil, put that inside there, mixed it together, popped that bad boy in the oven, and it was just cooking. I took it out, let it rest for 10 minutes, slicing into it, and then that first bite, dude. I'm gonna send you a video. Legit, my first bite, all you hear is just, oh my God. Oh, instant moan of satisfaction. Like I've never had that satisfaction my entire life until I had my own bread.
That's wow. There's a lot to unpack in this
It was
bread monologue.
it was amazing, dude. It was amazing. It
My
was
partner
really
makes bread all the time. I guess I should try it.
you should what kind do they make?
I
Do you
don't know.
know? You should really just like I think like it's such a good experience to get in the kitchen to work with somebody, whether
Mhm.
it's like your partner, your lover, your friend, whatever it is, your kids. It's just an experience that like when you're making something and you're taking raw ingredients and it comes out with something that you can actually eat and it's delicious, it makes it so much more enjoyable. And I'm gonna tie that right back into Star Trek because they just made this thing so much more enjoyable because they brought my man
All
into
right.
the mix. Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Picard Season 3. We're going to be discussing Episode 6, The Bounty.
Yes.
I am Brandon T. McClure of the Fake Nerd Podcast. With me, as always, on this trek is Cookie from Just a Little Podcast.
How are you doing, my friend? How is everything going on your side of life?
That's fine. It's better now that I've seen a new episode of Star Trek.
Yes, sir. And what a great episode. I'm going to jump right into it. I loved this episode so much.
This was the episode that brought back your boy, Geordie LaForge.
Yes. Did I ever tell you the story of when I met him?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I went to MegaCon here in Orlando, and I brought my. It's actually back. I'll grab it real quick.
Do it. Show and tell.
They got him wearing pants. That would have been bad.
That would have been very bad, yes.
All right, so I have this comic book.
Oh, cool, yeah. Real quickly, for audio listeners, it is the Star Trek The Next Generation comic book, an old one, DC?
Yes, this is old. This is 1989, so this is the year I was born.
Wow.
Yes, and this is issue number 1 of October, so it's actually 2 months, October, November, July. It's been a long week, all right? So can't really count. But I was born in July. This is in October 89. But It is a wonderful book, and I took it there in the hopes of actually meeting Geordie. And I went in, I saw the line. There was like 2 people ahead of me, and it was like it was Saturday, which MegaCon is a 4-day event. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was there on Saturday, hopped in line. I was ready to go, see him there, and he finally pulls up. Brent Spiner's right next to him as well. So both of them are back to back to each other. And I was like, I love you. You're absolutely, I told him, like, I poured my heart out to him, told him like how I used to watch Reading Rainbow. I watched Star Trek with my dad. Like I had this huge bond, and he was so charming. He was wonderful. Mind you, he's a good looking guy in his age.
Yes.
He is brilliantly looking. And I'm just like in awe of like a hero of mine, because he not only helped me to like read, but he also like really gave me this love of Star Trek very much because I saw a character in Star Trek that kind of represented me. I'm a blind kid, not really blind, but I wear glasses. He wore these crazy vision visors, and it was just so cool to see him on there. So I'm pouring out my heart. I have him actually sign my book, and it's this signature right here.
Sure, yeah. I see. You have a few others in there too.
I do. So I have the artist, and then I also have Brent at the top.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see Brent Spiner's. Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to get some more. But it was cool because like once I left him, I got my fist bump with him, took a photo with him. I went over to Brent, and he had nobody in his line at the time. So I walked up to him, And I was like, how was it being on set with like this cast and crew and coming back again for Star Trek Picard? Because at this time we all knew Picard was coming back.
Yeah.
And we knew that like Geordi was going to be involved in it as well. I was like, how does it feel to like be back with the old crew again? And he's like, to be honest with you, and he looks over to him and like with the most sincerity, and I don't curse, but he's like, I hate that piece of shit so much. And I just lost it. And you see like Geordi look over to him and he's like, how dare you? How dare you? And they're just laughing, having a great time. And it was so cool to see them connect together. And then this episode, seeing their faces was goosebumps, man. Just straight goosebumps for me. I loved it.
So I'm going to do a little share with you right now.
All right.
Because that car pisses me off. Did you hear that?
I did. I thought it was your stomach. I was like, whoa.
No, that is a car every day at different times just decides to rev his engine down the street. This is a residential. This is a residential. God, I'm old. All right, whatever. I've met 4 Star Trek actors.
Okay.
No, 5. I met Leonard Nimoy, Robert Picardo, who played the Doctor on Voyager, Brent Spiner, LeVar Burton, and Marina Sirtis.
Nice.
Yeah, I used to do at Comic-Con. There was this booth. I forgot the name of it because I haven't been to Comic-Con in years. But there was this booth that would always have like Star Trek cast members, and when the autographs were affordable, I would be able to do it. It was like $50, $60. I think 70 was the most I ever spent on, and that was like Spock. And I was like, okay, it's Spock. Marina Sirtis, I remember talking to, and she was like, wow, it's so interesting. I was young at the time, and Marina Sirtis was like, it's so interesting that somebody your age watched our show. That's really cool. And I was like, yeah, you're gorgeous. And I don't remember meeting LeVar, honestly, but I do remember Brent because he likes to pretend he's a curmudgeon.
Yes.
And I just, for some reason, that's just always resonant. That's just always stuck with me.
Absolutely.
But yes, okay. So speaking of, 3 of those actors that I talked about were in this episode.
Yes. Yes, very much so. You want to dive into it?
Let's do it. Okay, so this is episode, The Bounty, brings us to brings a lot of the cast together. You know I'm really happy that we're not on Metalis Prime anymore.
Yes.
We're back in space. Rafi and Worf energized on the ship. Oh, but before that, we should talk. There's a lot of discussion about what's Jack. What is Jack's hallucinations? He has Ironic syndrome.
Yes, he does, just like his papa.
Yeah. I really like the line of dialogue where Jack says, how'd you survive it? And he said, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. This is a really like poignant episode for all the mystery that we've been trying to like guess and try to figure out. Everything kind of, for the most part, really culminated together. And yeah, everything culminated together except for who is the ultimate like big bad that we need to see. Like we know it is the changelings, or we suspect it's the changelings, but who among the changelings is the big bad?
And we still don't know. And we now know what they stole from Daystrom Station, but we don't know why.
Yeah.
We still know it has something to do with Frontier Day. But I want to talk a little bit more about the Ironic syndrome reveal, because that doesn't fill in all the pieces yet.
Correct.
There is a reason why Vadic and the changelings want Jack. We don't know what that is, and it can't be. Yeah. We can't be because he has a terminal diagnosis of Ironic syndrome. And the hallucinations, I think. Did you ever see super deep cut? Did you ever see a show called Eli Stone?
I have not. No.
So Eli Stone is a lawyer show. It's a lawyer comedy musical show about a guy who has a brain aneurysm.
Okay.
But it's allowing him to see messages from God in the form of musical performances that allow him to win his cases.
What?
Yes. I'm not even over exaggerating. That is what the show is about.
That sounds pretty deep.
It's a really interesting show, honestly. And it was really fun. And it's George Michael is in. It's really interesting. And like the idea is that he the one episode he has surgery to have his brain aneurysm removed, and he was cured, and he no longer gets the visions anymore. But he also needs to. But God needs him to do like good. He's a good lawyer, like a good person, and so God makes a deal. It's like, okay, I can save this person, but you need to be my guy again. You need to have this brain aneurysm. Anyway, all this is a long-winded way of me saying, I think the Irumodic syndrome, while it is causing the hallucinations aren't. I think Jack is just being more receptive to something he's seeing because of the Irumodic syndrome. I don't think it's one-to-one. I think there's something more there with his hallucinations because Ro didn't trust the transporters. And what did Jack see when people were transporting off the Titan?
He stopped from going.
I think
because he saw. I want to say he saw that. Saw the door?
He seen the door. I think Mike commented this on our video last week that Ro saying she didn't trust the transporters. The transporters would be a really good way of changing taking someone off the board to become a changeling. You just keep them in the pattern buffer.
Yeah, that's it. Lock them in there.
And so it would make sense if some of those Titan crew didn't make it to the Intrepid.
Yeah, that'd be Well, is there a pattern with Jack? Why I asked that question? Maybe you might be able to answer it. Is in the event that these visions that he's seeing, these hallucinations that he's seeing, are triggered by something, what is common in every single moment that he is seeing these visions? Because there's some times where I feel like the only thing is when he's distressed is when he sees these visions. Because there was a time when he was washing his face and he saw the visions. There was times where he was kind of being held by gunpoint by the changelings, not knowing that they were changelings. Instant, he took over, had the hallucination. So it's like there are always these moments when he's in distress. So maybe it's like that Winter Soldier thing where it's like they have this secret code implanted into his brain of when you get a distress, that triggers.
Maybe he's a failed experiment.
Could be. But why now?
They want him back. That's a good question. There's still some pieces with Jack that don't quite line up, but I think now that we know he's got the Irumodic syndrome, which does fit, now we're kind of looking at it like, okay, we're getting a little bit more pieces to this question. And my biggest thing with season 2 that we talked about a lot was that we would get pieces, we wouldn't get pieces progressively to answers. We would get an answer and then we'd take 2 episodes off and we wouldn't get an answer. But the Irumodic syndrome is kind of the first answer we've gotten to what is going on with Jack, and hopefully the next episode will give us another one and then another one. And that creates a good progression point for what I think a serialized television show should be.
For sure.
And that also that's a good place to just say, I think this episode was paced very well, and I think really picked up the pace of the season.
I definitely agree with you. And like I said, it's very poignant that everything kind of hit this mark here and now where we got so many answers kind of revealed to us. And there's still a decent amount left for us to go and conclude this entire series and the show and overall Next Generation cast.
Yeah.
So I'm liking how everything is really flowing very well. And I think at this point in time, Picard season 2 and even Picard season 1 it fell off probably episode 3 for us.
Well, I think Picard season 1 was a lot more uneven than Picard season 2 for me. There's episodes like Nepenthe that I really like, and then some of the stuff I kind of like what Picard season 1 was trying to do with some of its ideas, but season 2, there was a point where episode 5 or 6 happened, and it just really tanked.
Absolutely.
And so we're about that time with season 3, and last week I was a little worried. You remember I was a little worried. I was like, okay, are we going to start seeing the show tank?
Yeah, they're going to need to try to wrap up some of these mysteries.
Which is why I was so grateful that this episode kind of kicked it back into high gear. Now we're yeah, we got that little slow episode out of the way. Now let's go. Let's
Yeah.
give you some answers. Let's give you some Easter eggs. Boy, howdy. So many
Yes,
Easter
sir.
eggs.
We do have to talk about Geordi.
Yes, let's talk about Geordi.
One
The
thing
big
that I
reveal.
really love is I love how well they've enhanced his eyes even more than the last time, and they're like extremely
Blue.
robotic and digital in a sense. It was really cool. It wasn't like just a contact lens. It was more than just that.
Yeah, I really like the progression of Geordi's eyesight. I know that, um, you know, I guess blindness isn't technically something you can solve
Mhm.
in the 25th century, 24th, 5th century, but you can like enhance people's eyesights, and um, even Soren says in Generations, like you could get a prosthesis that would
Yes.
make you look more normal, and
Mhm.
um, so like there are ways, but like Geordi keeps yeah, Jordy got rid of the visor, but he didn't get rid of his enhanced eyesight. He
Yeah.
he kept making sure that no matter what was going on with his eyes, it would give him that enhanced eyesight that he has.
Very true. And I loved how we got this introduction of him kind of coming into the mix and how he honestly he acknowledges it, saying like, I don't know if I should go and give you this warm embrace or if I should be ticked off and upset. And it's
Oh,
like,
but it's so sweet when he first sees Beverly, and he
yes,
he's gets on you can see it like in his face, like he got on the transport pad. He's like, I don't know how I'm gonna approach these people. I haven't seen them in many years. And then he gets on the transport pad. He's like, just give me a hug.
yeah, it
Like,
was so beautiful. Such a
yeah,
beautiful moment. I loved it. And I liked how he was with Picard. I
me
really
too.
liked his demeanor, his standoffishness with Picard. It was enjoyable just to watch.
Yeah, I think that he and Picard, well, because Jordy has a Jordy from Jordy's perspective, Picard did the reckless thing of putting his daughter in danger,
Yes.
and I was literally just watching the Ready Room episode for this week's episode of Picard, and they brought up something that I hadn't really picked up on, but Jordy is kind of retired.
Yeah. He's literally just like doing nothing with his life.
Yeah, he's in Starfleet. He's a Commodore in Starfleet. He's working at the Fleet Museum, but outside of that, he put himself outside of danger while still being able to work in an engineering aspect because someone
Yes.
has to restore those ships.
Mhm.
And still in Starfleet, but a place where he can protect his kids.
Yes, because he still has that ranking that he still can hold above a lot of people.
Yeah, and so his daughter Sydney decided to go be a pilot in starships, and his other daughter, hmm,
Don't
I know
even
it's
look at me.
I know it's Mika Burton, but what is her character's name?
I'll look it up
It's
right now.
it's Sydney Alara? That doesn't sound right.
Um,
It's Mika Burton, and she plays anyway, while you're looking that up. Um but like so like he has his other kid who stayed with him, who decided to stay on the Fleet Museum with him. And
Alondra.
Alondra was close. And so he's got his kid who stayed in the Fleet Museum with him, and this other kid who decided to put herself into danger. And his kind of arc in the season in this episode is that he lost sight of the fact that that it wasn't the adventure, it wasn't being a reckless adventurer, it was helping your family.
Yes.
And that's what Sydney has to tell him, that like, I'm doing this with my crew, and he says they're not your family, and she says yes they are. You taught me that.
Yes. And when that happened, I could not help but like start to get choked up a little bit. And I like paused and I literally reflected. I'm like, now Discovery, why
Oh,
couldn't you
geez.
guys do this? This is what family means. And this is how
Poor
you go and
Discovery.
demonstrate family.
Discovery is dead, and we're still kicking it.
I couldn't help myself. I literally paused and I just like reflected on that because like it was such a really good moment to see Geordi as a father and seeing him do whatever he can do to protect his daughters at all cost.
Yeah.
And It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful one, but it's like at some point in time, you have to unfortunately be a parent and let your child or children go and explore what it means to be their own person. And
Yeah.
Sydney never had that opportunity because she always wanted to be with her father. She always wanted to impress her father and get her father's approval. And even though she was not going to become an engineer, she even says it that she's like, I purposely went and broke my ships and did stuff because I wanted to spend time and go and fix things with you. And literally when that happened, dude, just tears started to roll down my face. I'm like,
Right.
wow, so beautiful.
And like there's a lot to I think a lot to
Unpack.
unpack with the LaForge family, and I'm so grateful that there is so much too,
Yeah.
because like it could be very easy that they just show up and Jordy is here and blah blah blah, but having having this like character conflict with Sydney and Jordy being there because Sydney feels that that she let Jordy down, or and Jordy not understanding his daughter,
Mhm.
um, and they got this like thing of like this like barrier that has come up between them that you get immediately as soon as Jordy steps off the transporter pad, um, and that became very relatable to me because it's not with my father but with my mother.
Okay.
I have a really difficult relationship with my mother. She doesn't understand me. I don't understand her. We have a rough relationship that that like it's a little different because I don't think Jordy's a narcissist, but um, but it's still rang true for me in some aspects, and that's what I really appreciate about this show and also legacy sequels in general that that we see so much nowadays that like these characters are human
Mhm.
and they have flaws that you're going through also. And I think that's what's so important about modern Star Trek. And I don't mean to get up on a soapbox real quick, but I'm
No,
going
no,
to do
no,
it.
no. I'm enjoying this because it's great.
I'm gonna hop on a soapbox and just defend modern Star Trek as a whole, because so much of Star Trek, the original series, the Next Generation, even DS9 to an extent, but less so, Voyager, um, is that it wasn't the allegory came from outside. We're going to a planet and we're dealing with allegorical stories outside, dealing with political drama, family drama, what have you. It came from externally and not always from the internal. And
Mhm.
DS9 does change that
Yeah.
quite a bit. And I want to just be like, yes. But what modern Star Trek has really done is turned it up to 11 with the allegorical character dramas, where you can see yourself a lot more than you could originally in the characters in Star Trek. I can see myself in Jack Crusher and Sidney LaForge, whereas I couldn't see myself in Kira Nerys or Jadzia Dax.
Mhm.
And I think that's really important, and that's kind of what the value of modern Star Trek gives us, and I think that's what Picard season 3 is doing so well.
Just to piggyback off what you're saying, 100%,
Yeah.
100%, especially in this show specifically, like we're seeing the torch being passed from one generation to another, and it's like next generation is literally passing the torch off to their children. We're seeing it with Picard. We're seeing him kind of like talk about his son Jack. We have Riker talking about his son who passed away, and also his other kids that are still here. We have now Geordi with his kids. We have all these families and all these generations that are being passed down, and it bridges that gap of making the show about sci-fi, but now making the show about the human mind and the sociology of being part of a family.
Yeah.
And I'm really really liking that a lot.
Because what it also has done is, what Star Trek did really well, the original series, the movies, Enterprise, Voyager, DS9, Next Generation. I just named all of them just for the hell of it. What they all did really well was create this idea that it wasn't just a crew of coworkers, it was a family. It
Mhm.
was I wasn't tuning into the bridge crew of the Enterprise D. I was tuning into a family.
Yeah,
And they all had kind of this like found family dynamic. Every Star Trek show has excelled at this. It's why
almost.
I'm talking about the classic ones.
Okay.
All the classic Star Trek shows excelled at
Yeah.
this, including Enterprise. Like the idea that they were all what they nailed was, because they were all ensemble shows, was the idea of this found family that became important to you over time.
Mhm.
It's why metatextually none of them ever left the bridge, right? Riker was on the Enterprise D for 20 years denying promotions.
Yeah.
Picard was a captain for 40 years. Kirk and Spock were on that ship for 50 years. Like it's the fact that they were on these ships for so long. I don't think that 50-year thing is true, by the way.
But
40 years.
Semantics.
It's 40 years, I think. But like the idea that these characters found their family and they stuck together and they wanted to be together forever, really resonated with me as a child and was what really got me into Star Trek. I know I just defended modern Star Trek, but one of its failings was in doing that. They were not capable. They were not able to, Discovery especially. I'm sorry, Discovery.
I have to interject.
Yeah.
Because I think you're wrong.
Oh?
Think about it. We have Lower Decks. 100% a family with those 4 people.
True.
We have Strange New Worlds. Instantly, we're already connected as a family.
You're right. And I should have clarified, and I'll do it now, early days modern Star Trek.
Okay, all right.
When it was just Discovery and Picard.
Okay, yes. I can definitely, because especially Picard season 1 did not have that connection.
Yeah.
And Picard season 2 only really had like Data for the most part, and Whoopi Goldberg was like a little sprinkle on there.
She's there.
Pixie dust.
But Discovery is still struggling with this idea of this found family. And we talked about it the last season where they kept talking about how they're a family, and we kept asking, like, how? What?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And like, I don't mean to keep kicking Discovery. The show is canceled. It's not fair. But what we're seeing now is not just Picard season 3 really overcorrect with the idea of like bringing back what Picard's family was, but also introducing their family that they have developed over time.
Yes.
And not to mention, and a son that Picard never knew he had.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so Geordi is wonderful. LeVar Burton doesn't miss a beat. He is so good in this episode. The scene between him and Shaw.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's
incredible.
So classical, just perfect.
Because Shaw has been this grumpy old man to Riker and Picard.
So happy.
And he's just like, I'm such a big fan, Mr. LaForge.
I loved it. It literally looked like if Shaw just walked onto like Disneyland or Disney World for the first time and was just, what is this magical place? Like, I was so happy for him to actually see a genuine smile on his face.
He was nervous too. He was like, I just wanted to say, like, I'm a big fan. And like, it makes sense because he was an engineer. Like, of course he would idolize the most famous engineer in Starfleet history.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of maybe Scotty. But I think that like there's so much really, really like cool stuff. But I want to talk about Picard and Geordi's conversation a lot more because, again, like I said, there's just so much to unpack with it. With the, Geordi is really upset at Picard for putting Sydney in danger, but they're still friends, and they still have this moment of like, I don't know what I'm doing with Sydney. Like she pushes me away, and I try to connect, and Picard has to have this moment where he's like, I've just recently been reminded that, we don't just pass on the good stuff, we pass on the bad.
Mm-hmm.
And now I want to defend The Last Jedi. So,
and that's the end of it, guys. Time to go.
So here we go. So Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars film.
Serious?
I'm serious. Because there's a parallel, and I'm taking the opportunity.
Okay, please enlighten me.
It's my favorite Star Wars movie. I'm sorry, Cookie. It's my absolute favorite, number 1. Got it. We just lost so many subscribers.
I think you might have lost me. Like,
come on.
I love Star Wars to death, but no,
we're not gonna get into it today. But I just want to say one of my favorite things about that movie was how Legacy is also about giving the next generation the bad. Yoda says it to Luke. We are what they grow beyond. So give them pass on your knowledge, pass on your skills, but you will also pass on your failures. You'll also pass on the things that don't work, because they will learn from your past mistakes and they will move on from it. And that's what I got from this scene, and whether intentional or not, most likely not. I got that from that scene where I felt Picard saying to Geordi, "We are what they grow beyond," because he's telling Geordi, like, we will pass on the good, but we will also pass on the bad, and they will grow from that. That's how they grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that beautiful. I found it beautiful in Last Jedi. I found it beautiful in this episode.
Don't get me wrong. It is very sentimental. I will not deny that. I not without getting into way too deep.
This is about to be hijacked into a Star Wars.
No, you're good.
Conversation.
I love Star Wars as a whole. Prequels, sequels, originals, everything about Star Wars I love as a whole.
Bad Batch, Clone Wars,
all of it. I've watched Resistance season 1, season 2. I loved it.
Resistance is a show. Yes, I've seen.
Correct. Yes. So I love all of Star Wars. However, the sequels is the lowest Star Wars for me. Do I still enjoy them? Absolutely. Do I still own them? Absolutely. Do I rewatch them? Absolutely. Are they my favorite? No way in hell. But there's
only one Star Wars movie I don't like. Just outright don't like.
Don't you dare say the holiday special.
No, I've never seen it.
Oh, don't waste your time.
No, why would I? No, it is the Rise of Skywalker. That is the only Star Wars movie I don't like.
Okay. I like it for the action, for the suspense, the drama.
I mean, it's a fine Star Wars movie. It's just a really Star Wars movie. It's like, hey guys, remember Star Wars?
Yeah, we're gonna try to do that again.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, I do. I kind of wanted something more though.
Yeah, for sure. But to bring it back to Star Trek, when Geordi, I know we're like, this is kind of very much Geordi centric.
Yeah.
But when Geordi saw, oh crap, now brain slip, Worf. That moment was so beautiful to me. I loved it. And I don't want to talk about the end of the Geordi's best friend. I don't want to talk about that just yet, but I do want to just speak about like Worf and how their interaction was, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I think all the reunions are really well handled because they're handled in a very honest way. Like it feels like they filmed their interactions on set. Like,
yeah,
oh my god, I haven't seen you in so long. Give me a hug. I love when Beverly hugs Worf, by the way.
Yes, and they're like, he doesn't like hugs.
He can tell he's really uncomfortable, but he's like okay with it. He's like, okay, I missed you too, but please don't touch me.
Yeah. Good.
Raffi and Seven also have a moment that I thought was interesting. The kind of like, yeah, we're kind of cool, but we're like, the breakup was amicable, but we're not, but we still kind of like each other.
Yeah, and Worf even tackles that awkwardness, and he's like, when they're about to do a go on a mission and stuff.
Yeah,
and he's like, I've actually been on missions before with lovers. And they're like, well, we're not going together. He's like, oh, thank God.
Thank God. Worf, so funny. Worf is so funny in this show. By the way, speaking of Worf doesn't really get a lot to do in this episode, but we have so far seen more for Michael Dorn to do in this show than we did in all 4 of those movies.
Yes.
And I just think that's great.
His character definitely gets his due in the show, and I'm enjoying every minute that we get. And I really do love his humor, especially with Riker while they're doing the mission.
Oh yeah.
And so they just connect.
So let's talk about real quickly how cool it is to use the Fleet Museum and Daystrom Station as the two halves of Starfleet.
Yes.
As we see both of them, and they're both littered with Easter eggs, but you got the Fleet Museum that's very much like, this is Starfleet. This is what Starfleet is. It's happy and it's optimistic. It's exploratory. And then you got Daystrom Station, this is also Starfleet. This is Section 31. This is the deep, dark places that you don't want to see.
Yeah, it was like visiting the Smithsonian Museum and then going to like Area 51.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly what it is. Because I literally just watched the Ready Room episode, but they called Daystrom Station Starfleet's Area 51.
Really?
Yeah.
it was cool, but and then once they said like
Section
section,
31.
I was like, here we go. Here
I
we go. You guys got to ruin a moment.
literally had that thought when Morph said Section 31. I was like, oh, Cookie's going to have a hell of a time with this one.
I was like, son of a biscuit. Why'd you guys have to do this? Like, let's just go back to like, I don't know. I was frustrated.
Hey, Section 31 is in your favorite Star Trek show.
It's
That's where it came from.
It's still stupid. It was just a stupid ploy to make some type of suspense and drama. I don't know.
I will agree that I think Section 31 has been overplayed because they were in Discovery and they were in Star Trek Into Darkness, and we saw them in Enterprise. Actually, we saw they like before they were Section 31. We saw kind of this idea of what they were before. So like I do think that they were used well once.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like it when we see something like Daystrom Station, which is this black site area where they've got the Thaleron radiation from Nemesis and a second Genesis device. Who the hell built that? And an attack tribble. By God. My God.
With the teeth, man, that was intense.
Terrifying. And by the way, Riker was making fun of Worf in that moment. Riker,
Yes.
that thing could eat your face off.
It really could.
But like so when we get things like this, I'm actually kind of okay with it because we're not seeing Section 31. We're hearing about them. They're still there. They're still the underside of Starfleet, but that's not what the show is about. We just need to kind of dip our toes into where they are right now before we move on.
When I did hear it, don't get me wrong, like I was just like, really? But I'm very much glad that they didn't dive deep into that at all, because I think that that's like a mystery that's left to be unsolved. Like we don't need to know the answers of Section 31 at all. Just leave it be, let it ride. But I did like the fact that we saw all these Easter eggs like throughout the area. It was just really, really cool and really enjoyable to see everything. And I was really happy we didn't get a 10 forward in this episode.
Yes, we did. It's in the beginning.
Did we really?
Yeah. Picard walks in and Jack's having a whiskey and 10 forward.
Yes, son of a biscuit. You're right. Dang it. I totally forgot about that. I was like, oh, this is the first episode with no 10. Nope. You're right.
Literally every episode, 10 forward has been in.
It's crazy.
They spent money on that bar. They spent a lot of money on that bar.
They really did. They really did.
So they got to get they got to get something out of it.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, how'd you feel about the reveal of how Starfleet has been tracking them down, and kind of like Geordi and Geordi's daughter really like opened their eyes to saying like, hey, the world that you guys lived in back in the day, it no longer exists when it comes to these ships. These ships are all interconnected. So they're like beacons everywhere. They know where everybody is at any time.
They're talking to each other. So this was also expressed in season 2 of this very show, actually, when the Jurati Queen was taking over. She was able to do it with the other ships because they were all talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's also in Star Trek Prodigy, not to spoil too much of that show, but something happens that compromises the entire fleet because they're all talking to each other.
Gotcha.
So it's not necessarily have an issue with that. I do wonder why Starfleet decided to do that. And I know that Geordi says like this was like I told them not to. Geordi, who's been trying to be like, hey, don't put the entire fleet on display for Frontier Day, and don't have your ships talk to each other. Don't have all the starships talk to each other. I do wonder why that is. Why Starfleet thought it was a good idea in the first place to be like, okay, all the ships are going to be interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's an explanation. I can't see it though.
Yeah, I can't either. I definitely can't either. And for me, it's like, it's kind of stupid. Doesn't really make sense.
Right. But it's not stupid of like a writer stupid. It's like a stupid on the side of Starfleet. Like Starfleet
Correct.
did something stupid, and it's not the first time.
Yeah.
This was a mandate. Like as a writer thing, I think it's kind of interesting to create that kind of like dynamic, and it creates like a problem that that the crew needs to solve, and that's all Star Trek is problems for crews to solve.
Yes.
In creative, interesting ways. So, like, in universe, I'm questioning what Starfleet Admiral was like. You know what would be a really cool idea? If all of our ships talk to each other,
right?
all of them at all times.
Yeah,
And like they do say that it's like it needs to be within a certain radius, which is why they're finding the Titan, because they got close to Daystrom Station. Titan talked to Daystrom Station, a bunch of ships showed up.
Yep.
Another
thing I wanted to bring up to you.
Yeah.
The Section 31 area that we kind of go to. I don't know if you got it, but I kind of got this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy feel when they first landed into that little
a little bit.
room.
This is going to be super geeky. I don't know if you ever went to Vegas when the Star Trek experience was there.
I didn't. I went to when it was here though, in Florida. Really? Yeah, this is when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13.
Was it you get beamed up to the Enterprise and you fight Klingons?
By beamed up, you mean you just look at yourself on the screen? Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. So it reminded me of the staging area for that ride. Yes. For that ride, that's what it reminded me of. I was like, "Oh, is this a Star Trek: The Experience reference?" Which no, it's not. But
it was. Oh yeah, it definitely. Now that you say that, it does, because like I haven't. The last time I did that experience, I was super young, so I can't even remember. My dad ended up taking me to it, and it was at the Science Museum here in Florida, and it was so cool, man, to like be beamed up, and then you see how the sausage is made. You're like, oh, this sucks.
I'm gonna gush about the Star Trek experience real quickly because like I think about it literally every day of my life. Then they dismantled it in 2008, which I'm still upset about. I will be upset about that for the rest of my life. But I went to Vegas a lot as a kid, and because my mom had a conference there, because my mom would do stuff with like fitness conferences at Vegas, and my dad and I would go to the Hilton, where they had 2 beautiful starships hanging over the entryway, and as you walked in was a timeline of all the Star Trek events up until that time, and all up until that time. And then you would get a picture taken, and you'd be put into like the crew photos, and then and then initially there was just one ride. It was called the Klingon Encounter, and you would get into the staging area, and then you would go black, and you would hear whooshing, and you would hear the wall in front of you would disappear, and you were on the transporter pad on the Enterprise D.
That's cool. That is so cool.
And then it's like, hey, we're the Enterprise, come to the bridge. So then you go to the bridge, and then Riker would be on the view screen with Geordi and be like, hey, Captain Picard's missing, and we think one of you guys is his ancestor, so we got to get you home. And then you would get on a shuttle, and you would the shuttle would be like a Back to the Future ride or the Simpsons ride, I guess it is now. God, I'm old. And so then it'd fly. Man, it was so cool. And then they set up a second ride called the Borg Encounter.
Okay, yeah, I never had the Borg at all.
So the Borg Encounter was really cool because it was kind of the same thing, but you would go on a space station enter a space station as the Borg were attacking the space station.
That's cool.
And it became kind of this like horror.
That's probably experience. So intense as a kid.
I was terrified of it. Terrified.
You don't want to get assimilated. Like, come on now.
I was 15 and terrified. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's a lot of fond memories with the Star Trek experience.
For sure.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, do you want to talk about the big reveal or second big reveal that we get at the end when we do see the away team kind of getting to the central hub after they've gone through, they saw Moriarty, who was a figment of this like security system.
He wasn't Moriarty, not as we know it. He was he was a holographic representation of the Moriarty that we met in next gen.
Yes, which I love. That was such a good callback.
That was a really good callback. There's a lot of really, really cool callbacks. Let's talk about the Easter eggs real quickly, because they got Kirk's body.
Yes.
In that station.
Yes.
They've got an attack triple. They've got a Genesis 2. What else did I see? The Theta on radiation was really interesting. There's
of course the end. Body? We got Picard's body.
Right. Well, we learned that there's Picard's body. Apparently, Archer's body is also there. Do they just have? Are they just collecting bodies of Enterprise captains?
I just remember seeing like the monitor on the side, and it was. And I literally kept rewinding it to try to read what it was saying on the first body.
Someone online, I think, has transcribed it. But anyway, there's a lot of really cool Easter eggs in that, and then obviously Moriarty being an Easter egg himself. But one of the things I really like about, we keep hearing this like note, this like musical note, and Riker says what the notes are. I really liked using his musical experience to solve this problem.
Yes.
That's never been done before. He's a musician. He plays the trumpet.
Yes, he does. Or trombone.
Trombone, maybe?
One of them. I think he plays a musician. He plays a brass instrument.
He plays an instrument, and but we never really get his music. The fact that he would know music
that well,
and so like the fact that not only did he recognize it as music, and because he recognizes the notes, and then he realizes, wait a second, I know exactly what this is.
Yes, and it was so cool. What I liked was, so there's only 2 universal languages, or maybe 3. I think it's love, math, and music are the 3 universal languages.
Yeah, I guess so.
So the fact that they were able to put that in there as a universal language and have that, it was so cool, man. It was, and the flashback that we got of Riker, young Riker, was so awesome.
I don't think we needed the flashback, but
we needed it. We needed it.
I don't know. I kind of looked at it like, this is a little bit like this is more telling, not showing.
I gotcha.
But I'm here for it. I don't mind. Babyface Riker. And Jonathan Frakes is excellent in this episode, as he is. But did I ever tell you who my favorite Star Trek character is?
Yes, you did. Plenty of times.
It's Riker. It's 100% Riker, and we're getting so much great Riker material in this season that I'm just like, thank you, Terry Matalas, for feeding me so well. And his banter with Worf, and he's just kind of like, he's like a kid in a candy shop when it comes to Worf. He's like, hey, we're like old times. Hey, you want to like jab back and forth? Why aren't you jabbing back?
He's like, I'm a pacifist.
But he's still like teasing Worf. He's got that like wicked grin on his face when he leads him over. And he's kind of having fun even when he's captured, because spoiler alert, he gets captured.
Yes.
By Vadic, he's kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to sell out Captain Picard. Kill me. I'm not going to do this. But let's talk about, before we get to Data.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Fleet Museum.
Okay.
Because I love Starship's cookie.
Oh, I know. And when I saw what was on display, and the fact that we had Seven kind of go and talk to Jack and kind of like quiz him on these ships, I'm like, Brandon's probably just like, I know what that is. I know what that is. I know what that is.
It was so just like the Defiant, and then the DS9 theme played over it.
Once that hit, I was like, yes.
So they talk about, Jack has this moment where he's gushing about, and Jack's a Starship guy too, and I'm really happy about that. But when they pop up the Enterprise A, where the Enterprise A is there, and it looks like the Enterprise A. It's not some weird modern update of the Enterprise A. It's just the Enterprise A. And we even see an old original series Constitution class.
Yes.
Not the redesign from Strange New Worlds and Discovery. And he's talking about how great the Enterprise, how great the Constitution class, and he's like, I've always been a Constitution guy, and I'm like, me too, Jack, me too. And I really loved, like, we're getting the theme songs for it. We get any ship that wasn't destroyed ends up in the Fleet Museum if it's a legendary ship.
Bird of prey.
Even not just any bird of prey, the HMS Bounty.
Yes. That was lost in the water with the invisibility cloak on.
Are you kidding me, Cookie? Are you kidding me that the HMS Bounty was in this ship?
Dude,
In
when
this
they
damn
said
show?
that was so cool. And they're like, yeah, it was so hard to find it because and I was like,
Because the
what?
cloaking device kicked on.
What?
And I was just like, I was floored because Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home is a great movie, but no way did I expect to see a reference of that movie in this show.
Yes.
But like not just that. I want to gush about the bounty in a minute, but like there's the Voyager, and then the Voyager theme plays,
That
and
was
it
a
gets
beautiful moment.
great moment between Jack and Seven talking about the Voyager. They make canon the NX-01 refit, which is briefly seen in the episode. Do you know the history of the NX-01 refit?
I don't.
So you know the NX-01, right?
Yes.
The ship, the lead ship, the hero ship of Enterprise. For its 5th season, it was supposed to get a refit where it was going to add a star drive section.
Okay.
To kind of more closely match it to the Kirk Enterprise. And it's going to be like, well, now we're seeing how that kind of like flat ship became the Constitution class ships that would be Starfleet's bread and butter in the next century. But because the show was canceled, it never happened. But Star Trek Enterprise also has a really shitty finale episode that is set 10 years after that, after the show ends, where the NX-01 isn't refitted. So what they've done is they have done the best thing possible, which is retcon the shit out of that horrible finale.
And now this will be the finale for them.
Well, no, it's now we know that the NX-01 was refitted, which is beautiful because it's a beautiful design. I love it dearly, just because I'm a Constitution guy. It's great. But Terry Matalas liked this tweet because I was talking about, people were talking like, oh, does this retcon the finale? It's like, really, it doesn't, because the finale of Enterprise isn't actually the finale of Enterprise. It's a hologram.
Yeah.
In the Next Generation. So it could have been extrapolated. Things could have been changed. We can't really take the information in that episode at face value, AKA Trip didn't die. Anyway, but so Gorkon's ship is in there. There's a few other ships. I think the original Stargazer, Picard Stargazer.
Talked about it briefly.
I think is there. It's at least a Constellation class starship if it's not the Stargazer. But so the HMS Bounty, being, by the way, so famous as the whale incident, is wonderful. And you see the gears turning in Jack's head, like, so the cloaking device works, huh?
Exactly. And once I saw that, I was like, yeah, buddy, make it happen.
I really like the idea that like Sydney and Alondra and Jack's like, so how would you guys feel about a little petty larceny?
Right?
You want to go steal something?
Did you like the dynamic between Jack and Sydney and this little like flirtatious like love thing happening?
I'm here for it. I'll be honest.
I am too. I'm like, she's actually kind of cute and he's a good looking guy, and like, yeah. And then you see Geordi kind of like stay with my daughter. I loved it. I loved it so much.
And I really like that Geordi is like, yeah, you did what I would have done.
Yeah,
I'm not mad. I'm proud. Like you, I was initially mad. I love their realization of Picard and Geordi's like, Geordi's like, you stole a cloaking device from my bird of prey, and Picard's like, I would never do this, and they both have the realization. Oh shit.
Oh yeah,
it's our kids.
Sydney and Jack up to it again. That was so good.
Yeah, and it's a great way to keep Starfleet off their tail. Just put on a cloaking device. So then they go back. By the way, that shot, I just want to real quickly gush about the shot where they're beaming them off the Daystrom station. It's beautiful. We saw it in the trailer, but it's just so cool with the ship flying over the Titan and then flying through. So cool.
Great stuff. The vision, this series has been this season has been visually stunning.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
I have not seen a moment where I was like, that CGI is not great. Everything looks pristine and perfect, and it's wonderful. But one of the things I forgot to mention about the Fleet Museum real quickly, and then I'll get off of it because I can gush about starships for like hours. is that like, thanks to the Fleet Museum, this doesn't feel like a show made in the vacuum of this is modern Star Trek now, so we're updating the aesthetics, we're updating everything. This feels like a show made after the Next Generation. Like, it feels like we've updated the tech only because the world within Star Trek has progressed, not because our world has.
Yes, and I like that a lot, and it's just more of like a respect to the legacy of what Star Trek has been and how it kind of keeps progressing forward in a sense.
Yeah, because you look at like Strange New Worlds, which is a show I love, but Strange New Worlds is very much like Strange New Worlds is a show that is made with the sensibility like our technology has evolved, so we can't have this ship look like it did in the 60s.
Yeah.
But we see a Constitution class ship from the 60s because in this timeline, that's what that looks like.
But it was, yeah.
I love that ship design, by the way. So good. They really nailed it back then.
They did some really good stuff.
All right. Anyway, so Daystrom Station. Let's talk about it. It's not just lore, like we thought. It's data.
It's more than just data.
And B4.
Exactly. It's all, and it's more than B4.
You're right. They say it's LOL. It's B4. It's LOL. By the way, great reference.
Yeah.
Lore, data, B4, LOL, and when we see data activated, Sung,
yes. I was gonna say Sung comes in and gives off like it was so good. Like his little final message that he had kind of really reassured who Data was as not an android, but as a person.
Yeah.
And he was the best out of all of them.
And, talking about legacy, which is what the season is really about, the legacy of these characters, like Alton Sung has this moment where he's like, I before I gifted the golem to Picard, I wanted to be my own legacy, but that's not what legacy is. Legacy is, again, what they grow beyond.
Correct.
What our children become, what we impart on our children, that is our legacy. And if I selfishly stayed alive, I could not have a legacy because I would just be me.
Yeah.
And so he kept the Sung legacy going by being like, what were the kids of Noonien Sung? It was Data before me and Lore.
Yeah.
Put them all together, make something new. Because that was the original intent. If we put them all in here, we would make something new. All these personalities, all these things. The idea was that they would mix and they would mix and they would come out different and hopefully better.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't necessarily work, and now they're just kind of sectioned off within the positronic brain. And Brent Spiner is incredible.
Yes.
At just telling you exactly who he is with just a look.
Yeah. Instant. Like you can tell which character is which at that given second. He has that ability to just switch. And it's like, dude, you haven't played this character in so long. Like you really haven't played this character in so long. Like, yes, we had him in Picard season 1 and that was great, or season 2, and that was fine and dandy. But playing multiple people in split-second intervals and changing between all three and back and forth, that's difficult.
Yeah, and Brent Spiner is a really good actor. He's always kind of been wasted on Star Trek, honestly. But it's always so great to see him kind of like act and really like, he does have distinct personalities for each of these androids, for each of these characters that he's played. Mm-hmm. And to see him kind of play all of them and cycle through in really quick succession.
Correct.
It was really interesting, but it's such a beautiful moment when they switch him on and he sees Geordi.
Yes. That glimmer in his light, in his eyes, dude, when that happened, it was just like, best friend, you're here.
And I've said it before, but like we didn't really get a lot of Geordi and Data friendship in the Star Trek movies.
Yeah, we got it in Next Generation a lot, of course, but yeah.
In the
movies, by the time weren't there.
By the time the movies rolled around, it was Picard and Data.
Yeah,
but to see these friends again reconnect after
so good
all this time, because Geordi wasn't there the second time that Data died.
Correct.
I wasn't sure how okay I would be with them bringing back Data, considering I've seen this character die twice.
Mm-hmm.
But because they kind of make the case of like, no, he's not just Data, he's something new.
Yeah.
Then I'm kind of like, okay, I'm rolling with this now. I'm actually really happy to see this because you can also rectify the wrongs of the movies, which is putting Data and Geordi together in a way that could be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But what did they steal from Daystrom Institute? We've already talked about it a little bit, but like they stole Picard's body.
Picard's body. Yeah. Now that brings us to the big question: is like,
Why?
Yeah. What is so special about his body? Why you want to? One is what's so special? Why you want to preserve it or preserve all of these bodies? For God knows, I'm surprised that they didn't have like Walt Disney in one of the vaults. That would have been hilarious.
Oh, it's it's a different area.
That's it. Yeah, it's in section 32.
Yeah, but it's so weird because like Picard's body specifically is interesting because if they wanted to become a changeling, if they wanted to like infiltrate Frontier Day as Picard, well, you just change into Picard and you do
You're
it
good.
because these changelings can pass an inspection now.
With blood and all that stuff. Yeah.
So it makes sense that so they need something else. But what do they want with a 96-year-old body with the Armada syndrome?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's interesting to me.
There's a lot of
questions,
which I like. I like the fact that we still do have these mysteries that are still escaping us, that we're still longing for a result for. And
the reason is because we've been getting answers.
Yeah.
So it's good that we still have questions moving into the next. We're not have that many episodes left.
I think it's what, 3?
7, 8, 9, 10, 4.
4, okay.
And we still have questions to take us into the last 4 episodes, and we're okay with that because we also have plenty of answers to the questions we've been asking in the first 6.
Yeah, correct.
Which is why again this episode works for me because it does pick up the pace and it does, and it moves the plot forward and we learn more information and we understand a bit more. Deanna comes back. Finally, we're getting her back.
And that's because of Riker is now being interrogated and they're using people that are close to Picard to try to, I guess, for some reason, trying to get to Picard and or Jack.
Yeah. Well, they want to know where Picard would go. So there's something interesting about these changelings that they don't seem to want to change into Picard's friends.
Yeah.
Like if I were Picard,
this one is very much a changeling, just kind of playing the role.
Yeah, that's a good point. It'd be interesting to see immediately because like if I saw Deanna on this changeling ship and I was Riker, I would not say it's Deanna. I would be like, oh, changeling.
Yeah, I would instantly I'd figure out like something that we only know that the changeling wouldn't know.
Yeah. Why did Thad die?
Exactly.
Because you were a bad mom. No, I'm kidding. Because you let him barf on all the shit. Anyway. Yeah, I'm really happy with this episode. Let me run through some real quick stuff. There's a conference room scene where they're planning the Daystrom.
Picard sitting down, relaxing.
Picard sitting down. He sits down a lot in this episode. It's funny. I like the line, by the way, where he's like, when Riker's like, do you know how many, not Riker, Geordi, do you know how many treaties this violates? Like, well, we'll just have to add it to my tab. Because Picard is, at this point, Picard's 96 years old. He's a little cocky. He's like, we're trying to save Starfleet. And we need help.
It's like an old senile, like, old adult. They're like, well, if I get in trouble, what are they going to do? Lock me up, sentence me to jail? Like,
right, I'll die anyway. I'm gonna die soon anyway. What do I care? But like he's saying is like, we need your help, Geordi.
Mm-hmm.
And Geordi finally realizing that, okay, I need to help my family.
Yeah.
But there's a line that I really like where Picard says, so we need to burgle the manifest at Daystrom. And Riker's like, excellent use of the word burgle. Because he's so good. That's such a good line. And then Shaw has like it was. It was good look. By the way, I haven't talked about it like this, but one of the things I really like about Star Trek is how wrong everybody sits in chairs.
Yeah.
Everyone's got like a lean, like the Riker lean, or that's really the most famous one. But Shaw, if you notice, like Shaw like hunches over in his chair because it's uncomfortable for him. Because he's an engineer, he's not a captain.
He's not used to it.
I like that. I like that character trait of like, I'm used to working with my hands. I'm not quite comfortable in the captain's chair. Let's see. I wrote Beverly hugs everyone, which is nice. You haven't seen these people in 20 years, though. It's kind of your fault.
Yeah. You've been hiding.
Oh, Alondra says, what about the thing in Hangar 12? What do you think's in Hangar 12?
That's a great question.
Some people have speculated it's the D.
The D.
The Enterprise D.
That's a big hangar.
That is a big hangar. But like it's the original space dock. It could hold it.
Yeah.
So all the ships in the Fleet Museum are ships that weren't destroyed, like ships that were either damaged or were retired from service. The Enterprise D isn't there because it was destroyed, because it fell in the saucer section, landed on the planet. The Enterprise E isn't there though. What the hell happened to the Enterprise E? Did that thing blow up?
I was gonna say, unless it's just like on the back end of the space dock.
No, we see the whole thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we see the whole ring. So the idea would be that like if you're not in that Fleet Museum, then probably you're destroyed. Or I mean, I guess you could be inside.
Yeah.
There could be exhibits inside also. But to not have the E there, I'm wondering, because like when they were first doing the show, when they first started the show, they had like these log entries of like the history of the Enterprise, and they said that the final mission of the Enterprise E was classified. I wonder if that ship was destroyed.
Or maybe it was like destroyed on paper.
Oh, maybe. And also, like I'm waiting because I want to know if this show will give us answers about what happened to Enterprise E. Did Picard? It was originally, there's a book that came out that when Picard became an admiral, the Enterprise E was still in service. But I wonder if that's not canon anymore. And they would say that Picard became an admiral because the Enterprise E was decommissioned. And we know for about maybe 3 years after Nemesis, the Enterprise E was in service, because that's what Beverly and Picard talk about with all their, with all the missions that were preventing Beverly from telling him they were pregnant. So anyway, just speculation.
This is a really good episode, though.
Yeah. I really liked it. I think I don't have many more notes. I don't think I have any more notes. It's good to see Worf and Riker together. Raffi's fun in this episode. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Oh, Jack and Sydney, they're cute. Yeah, we already said that. Okay, that's all I got.
Sounds good, my friend.
Do you got anything else you want to add?
I'm good. I'm excited for the show and how it's concluding. 4
more episodes.
Yeah.
Do you think they can pull it off?
I definitely do. I think if they don't, there's going to be a lot of people upset. A lot of people will be upset. Fool
me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, I might kill myself. No, this episode, now that we have kind of gone over the hump of the show of this season, I don't have any reason to think they can't pull this off.
Yeah.
Maybe the ending won't be entirely satisfactory, but I don't believe it will be bad. I think we'll actually I think we will be able to look back on the season as a really good season.
And smile, like, yeah, you guys did good.
You guys did it. Yeah. You sent off my favorite characters, my family, in a way that honored them.
Correct. Love it.
Because that's what it felt like when the first trailer dropped. Buddy, I cried when the first trailer dropped because my family was back.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful moments.
And I'm glad to say that every time these characters are on screen, it is engaging and it is fun and it is exactly like it is them.
Yeah.
It feels like them. They're getting things to do that I never thought I'd see again. I love it. I'm really happy with it.
I'm right there with you.
All right, so that'll do it, Cookie.
Sweet deal.
Why don't you plug your stuff?
All right. You can find me on Instagram, Just Little Podcast, on Twitter, Just Podcasting. I will be dropping some news coming up this Tuesday on a brand new episode. Brandon actually knows about it, so it's going to be some interesting news that I will be dropping. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's about it for me.
It's sad news, guys. It's sad
news.
News.
It's bittersweet news. Bittersweet.
I want to give a speech on your last episode, and I'm working on it.
If you do, let me know. I will, because I send you the link so that you can add it in there.
Oh yeah, maybe. You remember the beginning of Star Trek Nemesis when he's giving the speech to Riker, and he says, "But have you two considered what you are doing to me?"
It's not about you; it's about me.
That's how I feel right now.
I can understand.
No, it's good news though. I'm happy for you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so that'll do it, guys. That's another episode of Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Picard down the drain. We're all really happy with it. I hope that you guys watching this or listening to this are also really happy with it. And if not, I hope you guys enjoyed hearing us talk about it. Because we spend an hour and 10 minutes on an episode that is only 50 minutes.
But it's beautiful. There's so much to unpack. It's hard to make it a small episode.
This was a chunky episode.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we missed something, but whatever. So that'll do it. Guys, of course, there is plenty more things to check out on this channel. If you guys are indeed watching this on this channel, you can check out other Fake Nerds Watch shows that have been recorded before. Plenty of Star Trek shows with Cookie and myself. You can go back and check out the back catalog of. Or you can check out the sister show of this show, which is The Mandalorian Season 3. The first episode of that show is out now, where we cover the first 3 episodes. Excuse me. We cover the first 3 episodes of The Mandalorian Season 3. And then the next one will be the next 3, and then we'll end it with 2. So just kind of a compressed Mandalorian series. So that's that, guys. And then we have also Basement Arcade, which is a video game show, Basement Arcade Pause Mini, video game discussion show, Animation Station, Fake Nerd Book Club, and fun stuff coming up at the Fake Nerd Book Club soon. I unfortunately had to find a replacement for this guy.
Sorry.
But fun stuff coming for the Fake Nerd Book Club soon. I hope to announce pretty soon. And then of course our new show, The Real Score, is coming soon. You can check out that where we talk about music. By the way, music in the season, music in this episode, excellent.
Absolutely.
So many wonderful theme songs. But you can hear me talk more about music on the Real Score podcast. We got Patreon, we got a TeePublic. If you'd like to support us financially, you can do that there. Otherwise, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, rate and review us on all the places you're finding this online. You can find us on Fake Nerd Podcast on all the social medias, fakenerdpodcast.com. We can find everything, including some writings I do. Yeah, I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for atomicgeekdom.com, kaijuramenmedia.com, and cbr.com. A couple of Star Trek pieces if you're in the mood. Yeah, Cookie?
I don't do any writing, so you can't find any of my writings.
Why not?
I don't. I really. Okay, so I do have a book potentially in the works, but that's down the line, way down the line. I've been asked to.
You don't talk to me enough.
I've been asked to be an author in a book of a collection of short stories. So it's been a year process of me writing a short story, but I'm writing one.
You let me know when that's coming.
Okay.
I will buy that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm just on social media on just a little podcast. I show off comic books, show off my toys, or just random stuff. If you want to go and chat with me on there, you can. If you want to chat with me on Twitter, don't worry about it, because just head back over to Instagram and you can chat with me there. So.
All right. There's 4 more episodes left, Cookie. Bittersweet, but I'm excited to see the finale of the next 4 episodes. And until next time you see us, guys, live long and prosper.
Absolutely. And may the force be with us all.
Oh, no.